I'm here with Anita Kalergis, now that I know how to pronounce your last name properly. And you've dubbed yourself Krypto Granny affectionately. Can you tell us a bit about who you are, what you do, how you came to enter the space?
To start with, I am an actual granny, double granny. My younger granddaughter is almost 2 months old now. So
Congratulations.
thank you very much. So I'm very happy and proud of being a grandmother, obviously. So when the Krypto Granny name was or kind of came up, actually behind that are the consensus, let's say, community or network back home in Finland. I was participating in some meetings with them, and then at some point I kind of said, well, I'm so old person to join this blockchain and crypto movement, whatever. And there I kind of relieved that I am an actual granny. And then a bit later, when we started to do these interviews and stuff, they thought that, you need to have a brand name. And, they came up with this idea, which I immediately fell in love with. And in my logo, I actually have a teacup where it says Krypto Granny. So it's kind of the thing. But how did I end up becoming a Krypto Granny and find myself like now in this Multi-Blockchain Summit? 2.5, maybe 3 years by now. Ago, I got very curious and interested in cryptos to start with. Bitcoin obviously was the reason, as to so many. I wanted to understand and know more about it. At the time, I was living in Dubai. So I had the great opportunity to become member of a couple of very active communities that were arranging these meetups. One of them being called Planet Blockchain. And their approach on those meetups at the time was that, even if you don't understand anything, even if you don't know anything, come along and we start all the thing from the very basics. And so I got involved, and the more I learned, especially about blockchain, I became very curious and very interested and fascinated about this technology and the opportunities I believe it does offer to us as humankind. One thing led to another, and my last year I had a Chinese principal developing a blockchain protocol and so on and so forth. So yeah, now I'm more and more involved. But lately doing, business consultancy in the conventional field of businesses, obviously, but also looking into interesting projects or interesting new principles maybe to work with, and in the meanwhile also doing interviews as Krypto Granny, having the approach that I try to simplify the discussions and then the whole talk when it comes to cryptos and blockchain. So we hopefully get more and more people who have not joined us as yet coming along when they actually would understand what we're talking about.
And this is key because this is essentially why I wanted to sit down with you. We had a lovely discussion a couple of days ago where we talked exactly about sort of the frustrations that come with people that are trying to at least get acquainted with the space, that are maybe curious but have such a hard time entering because we're not communicating effectively, right? We use terminology that only people in the space are familiar with and only they understand. And so there's a real communications problem, you could say.
Absolutely. And I so agree. I so agree. And that's, like mentioned, that is obviously the reason why I'm here. When I was doing my, if you wish, conventional business consultancy, one of my approaches at the time already was that I am a non-technical person. And when we talk about non-technical, the only thing I actually know is that if your mobile phone is not functioning or if your laptop is not working, I need to shut it down. And then when I restart
the classic turn it on and off again.
That's where my expertise kind of ends. So I'm a non-tech. But I always challenge these companies and inventors and innovators in means of marketing and sales message by telling them that I am your challenge. If you don't get me to understand your product or your service, you have no chance with the actual people you are trying to reach or your end customers. So the same applies here. When I joined the movement, like I mentioned, I was lucky that there were some communities who were doing these events where there was kind of a low entry point, and they were very open to all these conversations and discussions and all the hundreds of questions I made at the time because I needed to understand. But I realized very quickly that the discussions and the talks were done in a manner where it was very difficult to understand the terminology. I mean, who talks about fiat in any other conversation than the one related to blockchain or cryptos or assets? I mean, there is synonymous for those words, but we don't use them. Well, if you're not familiar with these words, it's very hard to follow up to this conversation. Right. So the people, they just walk away. And obviously, the sparkle is not there. So I fear that we lose them. And then the other aspect to this is also that I have been fortunate enough to travel the world, participating meetups and summits and conferences. And I have realized that there's quite often the same people I meet. So that's another thing, like, okay, so what are we doing this for ourselves? Shall we exchange our views on the same thing in 1 year's time here in Malta again, like you and me? Or are we actually wanting and looking for to get more and more people to join, which I do believe it's our, that's what we all want and that's our intention. So in order to that happen, Krypto Granny tries to challenge the people involved, the active actors within the scene, if you wish, to simplify and to clear the speeches, the talks, so more and more people understand what we talk about. Then hopefully they get curious. After that, interested. Then they will want to know more. Probably go home and Google or find out more information, and then maybe come and join these events.
We already talked about how there's just plenty of misconceptions. People thinking that blockchain is Bitcoin, right, and nothing else.
Yes.
Or, I mean, even people just not knowing that you can purchase part of a Bitcoin, right? It's not, you don't just purchase one Bitcoin. So if Bitcoin's at 8,500, you don't have to invest 8,500 in order to purchase one Bitcoin.
Correct.
So I think there's still a long way to go for education.
Yes, absolutely. That is exactly what it's all about. And then obviously, let's say one approach that I also have is kind of that it could be also an ethical approach. So if you are not discussing or you don't want to or you find it difficult as us, again, actors within the field, so we can always engage the who are not engaged as yet or who are not part of us, if you wish, part of the movement as yet, via the ethical conversation, because that is something everyone can participate. Everyone has a view that, okay, if I have this opportunity to be not identified as me and I am able to transfer money from place A to place B, maybe I can do some, monkey business or mafia stuff, whatever. Would that be okay? Everyone has opinion on that. Right. For sure not. So that is also another approach. So, bring people in to have a conversation that where they can actually participate, kind of same time educating them just of these things that you mentioned, that it's not always related to child porn or money laundry or it's not actually, the dark side of the coin kind of a things, because people often, they see only the headlines or the rumors, which they do understand, and then they form their opinion based on those, which is such a shame. So
there's so much social good that can come of it, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And the main thing and the core or the soul of the whole thing for me is that give this technology, which is amazing. I'm so how would I say?
Convinced that it's a tool for the future,
and excited in the beginning of this new future that this technology will allow to us, that give this technology a fair chance, give also the cryptos a fair chance. So form your opinion based on hopefully facts from both sides, so hear the whole story, be objective regards to the information that you hold on which you base your opinion, then whether you want to be part of this or not. Also, then each and every nation, each and every country, continent, however you want to see it, depends on having more and more masses involved, because then comes along the political pressure for politicians, for decision makers, and so on and so forth. So we could actually get the ball rolling.
I mean,
As an industry.
everyone dreams of mass adoption for the industry, right?
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
But that needs to be part of the public discourse. And I think public awareness is such a big factor.
Yes.
And so far, yeah, it's not something we're doing effectively.
No. And then kind of a maybe being not an example, but doing it very openly and well, via these interviews and everything, not playing stupid, because that's what I don't want to be, but just having the courage and not being ashamed of asking 5 times, like, I don't understand, how can, from the world I know, what is similar to this, so I can relate to what is happening now in this new field or in this new industry or in this new setting. So I just keep on asking and making them crazy, yes, but they are all very, very open and very kind. And I have never felt that, asking many times why or what for or explain again, that someone would not want to do that. So that, and they can do that.
That's the thing. I mean, it's a challenge that you're issuing to the people
Yes.
in the space as well, right?
Yes.
To adjust the way that they're communicating and making sure that they tailor it to the right audience.
Yes.
Because again, I mean, for those of us in the space, we know and we have our lingo, and
Yes.
we can communicate with each other, but that
Yes.
has to change when we're trying to reach a wider audience.
Yes, absolutely. And just very recently here in Malta, I was talking to some people. They have this great project, and one part of that is that you can actually now open a bank account. It is a actual bank account in an actual bank, and then all the thing comes down to that is related also to a crypto wallet, and you can have your cryptos kind of a behind or in the one and same bank account, divided in a certain manner. But when I was introduced to this project for the very first time, they were using that you can have an IBAN account, which I obviously know what it means.
Right.
But then again, I was just pointing out the Krypto Granny thing here. I said, where else would you be talking of IBAN? Where in other contexts? None. And there is so many people out there who actually don't know what IBAN is or what is SWIFT. So why would you use that wording? Why don't you talk about a bank account or a conventional bank account? And that's what they did. So I know there's some marketing material that they did for this event, and they took the IBAN word away, and instead they have
And it's
account.
just small. It's such a small and simple change, right?
It is. So
Yeah.
mainly you could say that I just go around and, knock them on their shoulder and remind that, there is so many of us who don't get all of this as yet. So remember to keep it, simple and make it easy to understand. So it's easy to approach and get curious and interested and hopefully join, because it's absolutely worthwhile doing it. I do believe the future lies there in one form or another, but surely we should not believe and buy the headlines, nor these rumors, and as minimum be part of the ethical conversation as a starting point, if nothing else. And then we can, regulate ourselves what kind of a future we want to gain and achieve and have, this technology allowing so much of different things and solving problems that we haven't been able to solve as till today as a humankind.
Indeed.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure.